Alternative formats for this presentation can be found on the Financial Services website. For assistance, visit or contact us. Email us at finance.training@queensu.ca or give us a call at 613-533-2050. Welcome to Journal Entries Part 2 Research, Moving Research Dollars. All research projects begin with a 3 and are 6 digits in length. Projects are set up in ranges, and each research award, grant, or contract has a unique project number. For example, Project 394921 is a research project which resides in the CIHR Operating Grant project range. Fund codes are used to determine whether the project is externally funded or internally funded. Fund code 30,000 is used for externally funded research, and Fund code 31,000 is used for internally funded research. Mandatory chart fields for research transactions include fund, department, account, and project. Program and class IDs are optional, with the exception of Canada Foundation for Innovation, or CFI projects. These projects require a program code. The following is an example of a research chart field string. For additional details regarding chart field values, please visit the Financial Services website. There are some general principles to keep in mind regarding research journal entries. For example, expenses may be recoded to a research project from a different research project or from outside of the research fund. Expenses must be eligible for funding agency and university policies. Please visit the Researchers section of the Financial Services website for spending guidelines. Another thing to keep in mind is that expenses must fall within allowable project dates. It is important to remember that revenues should never be recoded between projects unless approved by research accounting. And finally, journal entries should be based on current fiscal year transactions. Prior period transactions should only be recoded upon approval by research accounting. Next, we will review some different scenarios involving research journal entries. If you have questions regarding a particular research journal scenario not covered in this video tutorial, please contact Research Accounting for guidance. In our first example, lab supplies are being recoded from one research project to another. The account number used should be reflective of the actual expense originally incurred. Therefore, in this scenario, account 602007, Technical Lab Supplies, is being used on both sides of this journal entry. The project being charged or expensed is represented by the debit amount, and the project receiving the reimbursement for this expense is represented by the credit amount. In our second example, travel expenses are being recoded from a non-research fund to the research fund. You will notice the travel account 640001 is used on both sides of the entry. Given the research project is being expensed, the related amount is a debit, while the operating fund, which is being reimbursed for this expense, receives a credit. Account 480001, Revenue University Funds, may be used to transfer internal revenue to an internally sponsored research project. This account must net to zero across all funds. Therefore, account 480001 must be used on both sides of the journal entry. It is important to note this account should never be used to record research cost recovery transactions or transactions involving externally sponsored research projects, although some exceptions do apply. If you have questions regarding the appropriate account to use for a research project, please contact Research Accounting for guidance. In our third example, internal revenue is being transferred from an operating fund to an internally sponsored research project. You will notice account 480001 has been used on both sides of the journal entry. Internal cost recovery accounts have been created within existing expense budget notes to be used when recording internal cost recoveries. These accounts are identified with a prefix of ICR. For example, account 606002 ICR Printing Services is used to record internal cost recoveries related to printing services. In example 4, an internal cost recovery of printing expenses is being recorded. The research project is being expensed and is represented by a debit using account 606001, printing photocopying. To record the internal cost recovery of this expense, account 606002, ICR Printing Services, is used on the credit side of the journal entry. When recording external cost recoveries, funds should be deposited using the appropriate expense account. For example, if an external organization provides funding to pay for travel expenses related to Project 399999, the funding would be deposited to the project using account 640001, Travel. Research projects, which are subject to overhead, will be charged a monthly overhead rate based on expense transactions incurred in a fiscal month. When completing a journal entry to close a research project, which is subject to overhead, the overhead rate must be factored into the amount that is being recoded in order to bring the project to a zero balance. In this example, the overhead rate for Project 399999 is 40%, and there is a $1,000 surplus balance remaining in the project. You must first calculate the amount that can be expensed to the project by dividing $1,000 by 1.40. The result is $714.28, which represents the total expenses which can be recoded to the project. Next, once overhead is charged to the project, the remaining balance will be expensed, bringing the project to a zero balance. When recoding salary and benefit expenses from one research project to another, expense accounts must be reflective of the original expense transactions. Salary and benefit accounts must be recoded as separate line items. Salary and benefit details by payee may be accessed by running the Payroll and AP Transactions to Salary Accounts report in FAST. Remember that transactions coded to account 570002, Additional Pension, should never be recoded if used with a research project, as this account is cleared out by financial services on a monthly basis. In our last example, salary and benefit expenses are being recoded from one research project to another. You will notice the salary and benefit accounts are being recoded separately. How may we help you today? If you have questions, give us a call at 613-533-2050. Our fax number is 613-533-6433. Email us at finance@queensu.ca or visit the Financial Services website. We are located at 207 Stewart Street, 3rd floor in the Rideau Building, and our hours of operation are Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. This concludes our tutorial. To learn more or to review additional training resources and video tutorials, visit the Financial Services training page.